Hey everybody, this is Lonnie with Borderline. Today I'm going to do a video on how to make your machine better, your existing machine. We're going to talk about 3 different machines. Okay, number 1, the old Borderline RE500. The original machine that Borderline made. We do not make those machines anymore, but if you do have one of those, there's ways to make it much better than it is. The Borderline Sting, pre-2017 Borderline Sting, so any older Borderline Stings, there's a lot of things we can do to it now to make it a lot better. And then the last machine is your Tygar machine. They were orange and black, they're made out of Georgia, so if you have one of those machines, all of this stuff here will work on all 3 of those machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw on a strap, chest strap here, and so I can get a little bit better angle, and we're going to go through all 3 of these, your undercarriage, your plunger, and a side plate, and those things combined together will make life and your efficiency much better on your machine. Okay, first things first. On the 3 machines that I mentioned, those machines have an undercarriage. So the Sting, RE500, Tygar. This is what's called an undercarriage. This attaches to the bottom of your machine, and these are where your molds will slide into, so you can get different profiles. All right. So this is going to be the back of the machine right here, obviously towards the front. The machine sits on top. There's a couple bolts right on the side, short bolts that you connected to it. Then there's also going to be a bolt right here. I'll explain why we don't have one here on all the new machines. These are put onto the machines. We drill the hole to fit that machine. If we send any of these out to someone with an existing machine, no matter if it's 5 years old, 10 years old, 15, a lot of times frames have twisted, things are a little bit bent. When people are cleaning, things get banged on and bent, so sometimes that hole that's in your machine to go through the hole that's supposed to be here does not line up. It's not because this isn't straight, it's because everything else is off. So what we do is when we send these out, you put them on your machine, make sure everything's clean, and so you can get the 2 bolts on the side nice and tight, and then mark this area where it goes through on your machine. Take it off, go ahead and drill it, and put a nut and bolt there. It'll be custom for your machine. Get an idea on how this fits onto a machine, because there's a lot of them out there that do not have an undercarriage. It's just open in the bottom, and I'm going to go show you a couple different Stings that are in 2 different phases of production here. We're in the Borderline facility, obviously here. This one is on the is ready to be welded. It's on the jig here. Your undercarriage would sit underneath, and it's totally encased. So here's one that's been welded. So here's your hopper. It's pretty simple. Your undercarriage is going to enclose that. Your plunger will go back and forth here, pushing everything out the front. Okay, the great thing with undercarriages is it contains everything. If you have an open bottom, let's say there's a particular machine you're using has a mold in the front and it's open in the bottom on the frame, that allows stuff and slag and waste to go to the sides. If you look at this, okay, because this is contained in your plungers here, there's nothing open for it to go outside. The skids that are added right here will help prevent that and allow it to slide a lot better, but you're going to have a huge amount of less waste coming out these machines with this particular undercarriage than you would with some others, or even if you're using an existing Tygar right now that has this, it's obviously it does not have the skids, so it's allowing stuff to go out because it's not contained in there. Look at the second thing. Here's your plunger. These are the new plungers from 2017 and on. This one came off an old machine. Right off the get-go, you can tell the difference in width, and if I put this over the top, the new plunges are at least a ½ inch wider. When these old ones were in here, you had a lot of space on either side of that. You're not getting a good push. You're not pushing as much Portland as you possibly can, or your concrete as possibly can. So we've gone wider with those to make sure they're tighter in there. You have a little less leeway, but you can have a better push. Second thing is, if you notice the face is an inch shorter. All right, and that's done on purpose. With the old one, what you would have is when this was in here, and that's going to be about 1 inch from the ground, so it's going to be right there. Hopefully you can see this. When this pushes forward on a square mold like this, it's not an issue because the high part of that face is still below the top of that actual mold. So you'll get a good push, and it should fill in underneath The problem is if it doesn't fill in underneath, you're going to get voids on the top. You'll get areas where there's no concrete whatsoever, and you have to sprinkle it on there and trowel it in. I went ahead and slid an angle mold in here. I had this one sitting in a box. It's all rusty. It's a really old one that we got in with some machines one time. So I just grabbed it real quick. When you slide a mold in like this with the old plungers, you can see how tall that face is. The problem is now that this mold is shorter than this one, obviously it has to be because it needs to fit inside there, the top of the plunger is above the top of this. So on a slant style curve like this, and I had trouble for years where it would not fill in at the top. So you'd have all sorts of voids, so you're really doing a lot of work to fill that in. Okay, the new plungers are shorter on top. It's the same height and everything. It's just got a longer bend and it's shorter. So with your lower profile curves, which everybody uses, that's able to push concrete in and fill it up. Okay, so you never ever have any issues with voids. And you can see how much tighter that is. You see the difference in length. Okay, we've made the new plungers a ½ inch longer than the old ones, and I'll show you why in just a little bit because it's very important. You can see the height and everything is the same. It's just that front face is much different. Okay, let's put them back to back now again. You notice one thing. This we call this a receiver. It's just like a truck. You got a receiver. The post on your trolley is the you know, like your receiver hitch. Okay, so this is going to slide in. For some reason, they put this bolt for years on all these machines back farther. So you had to slide that post on your trolley all the way up at least to here to make sure that would tighten. Okay. The issue is if you know your track and trolley, and you have it as far forward as you can on that post, you're still an inch, 2.5 or 2 inches away from the mold. That creates problems, and there's no way for you to extend it any farther. Okay, that's just as far as it can go. That creates problems because it creates leftover concrete right here at the top. Here's your farthest push. You got a bunch of concrete left here. This comes back, they throw in another shovel. That contributes to bridging. That'll plug up your machine a lot just because it's not getting a far enough push. With the new ones, you can see we've moved this farther forward, so you can put that right at the end. Okay, and you still have a you know, extension. Obviously, this is longer too, and so what you want to do, and you want to be sure that you adjust your plunger for this, is you want to get that plunger as far forward so there's hardly any space in between there out on the forward stroke. On my machine, it actually taps my mold. It'll do a little tap and come back. That will greatly reduce your bridging a lot, and people notice it in the first mix and how much easier that just pumps in there. From the shape of the plunger and from the distance it is away from that mold. It's very important. Last thing on the plungers. Okay, you notice there's a hole in these. Okay, all the new ones. This is for putting your cable in. You do not need a special $500 attachment to put cable in on either of these 3 machines. It's a hole in the plunger and you can run the cable out the side. There's nothing special to that. On the new ones that we make, these go on our new machines obviously, but we weld a nut on there, drill that out so there's no threads inside. You have a lot more steel there so that doesn't wear through as fast, because eventually if we're running thousands of feet of cable through there, it's going to start wearing that, you know, friction, and it's going to wear a hole all the way to the bottom. Eventually it'll just cut that whole thing. So that's the 2 things we do. You do not, again, if you're spending a bunch of money on a cable attachment, that's not something you have to do with these machines. You can run cable day one when you get your sting out of your freight box and you put it together. Right off the bat, you're running cable. You don't got to do anything special. Lastly, side plates. I've had a side plate on my machine for a better part of 15 years probably, just because when you hire that new guy and they're just, you know, trying to go fast and impress you, you know, they're throwing that concrete and they're getting it, you know, throwing it right past the machine into the flowers, into the beds and stuff. To have something there, you know, you obviously have a back plate. To have something on the side to help with that greatly, you know, affects on how everything falls in there and, you know, the mess that you're cleaning up later. All 3 of these things, you know, this with combination of this and combination of this is going to make your machine run so much better, so much faster. There's less pickup, there's less plugging, and efficiency, you know, is greatly increased. And, you know, in the long run, you're making more money. what we've done with the Tygar machines, you know, we kind of custom made our own plates. There's no holes in the side of a Tygar machine, so what you're gonna have to do is when you get this, let's say you order a bundle, you know, you can order this with your plunger and you'll get a free side plate to put on your machine, and you have to let us know what machine you have. So this will go on, you know, the side of the machine that you're running, and then you're gonna have to mark the holes, and you have to drill your own holes so you can attach this, because there's no holes in the side of a Tygar. This one right here is a side plate for a PR Sting pre-2020, actually 2020. These are the old ones, so if you got a machine last year or 2 years ago, it should have one from us. But if you have an old one that's 10 years old, you know, whatever, this will bolt right up because there's 2 holes that are on the side of that machine, so that should bolt right up. You can actually even use this if you do it just right on your RE500. You just have to slide it down a little bit farther, adjust it, and mark your holes. You can go ahead and drill them and put them on RE500 too, and this is going to help you a lot. This is what we have on the new Stings. 2020 Stings all have 2 of these, 1 on each side, so if you want to flip your machine around, you can easily adjust them. Turn a crank, drop one, lift the other. For us, we go in the same direction all the time, all day, so we've taken the one side off and we just leave it here at the shop, and we just run with one side plate. But on a new machine, that's going to be fully adjustable, and you can adjust them as you go, depending on your job. So there's your 3 things to make your machines better. Again, Tygar, RE500, borderline Sting, pre-2017 for sure, and you know, skids, your plunger, your side plates, those things work together. You're going to go twice as fast.